Hello, we're at week 4 of the verbal verbs of Jesus. Today's action from Jesus, we have 3 verbs found in Mark chapter 8, verse 34. It says this, "Then Jesus called the crowd to him, along with his disciples, and he said, 'If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me.'" Deny, take up, follow. Now, before we explore these focus verbs, we need to notice that there's other verbs here in this verse. The first one, called. Then Jesus called the crowd. This action of Jesus cannot, it should not, and I will not skim over it. Who called the crowd? Jesus called. Who initiates with people? The Spirit of God. Jesus, he's the one that called the crowd to him. Jesus always initiates first. We cannot come to Jesus except through God's invitation. The second verb here, said. That means that Jesus spoke. Jesus communicates to those that he calls. So Jesus calls the crowd, Jesus speaks to the crowd, and then it's what he says. If anyone would come after. This come after means that we go from one place to another. We come behind, we follow him. So he called, he spoke, and he said come. And now we come to our 3 verbs for today, our 3 focus verbs. The first one, deny. It means to lose sight of yourself or to lose sight of your interests. This is a recurring theme in my teaching. It's one that I haven't mastered, but it's one that I choose to live out. I need to get my eyes off of me and I need to get my eyes on Jesus. I need to deny my wants, deny my desires, deny my hopes, deny my fears, deny my worries, deny my wishes. I need to get my eyes off of me and get them on Jesus. Hebrews chapter 12 verse 2 is imprinted on my mind, but it battles with my will. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus. That is that recurring theme that continues to come up in my life. I must remember, and you must remember, we all must remember the promises of God. When we're called to deny ourselves, we battle with that. And yet, all God does is good. His word promises that. His word promises that God is always with us. He promises that he's our safe place. He's our hiding place. He's our shelter. His word promises that he's faithful, that he's trustworthy, that he is faithful and that he's steadfast and he's merciful and he's gracious. His call of self-denial is for our good. Now, we're not designed to be all in 2 directions. Our eyes are either fixed on Jesus or they're glancing somewhere else. We're in denial if we think that we can live how we want while declaring that we've denied ourselves. The call of Jesus to come after came before his command to deny. These 3 verbs are for those of us who follow Jesus, for those who have heard his call, but then heed his call to come after him. These 3 verbs are connected. They cannot be separated. There are 3 pieces that come in the come after. We have deny, and now we have take up. We must take up our cross. That means to lift up, to carry, to bear what has been raised, and to apply it to use. Once we've heeded the call to come after, we need the command to be willing to suffer and to die for the cause of Christ, to die to ourselves. Since we deny ourselves, then we can bear whatever suffering comes our way because Jesus is the one that does the bidding and because God promises that all he does is good because God is good. Dietrich Bonhoeffer said this. He says, "The cross is not the terrible end to an otherwise God-fearing and happy life, but it meets us at the beginning of our communion with Christ When Christ calls a man, Bonhoeffer says, he bids him come and die. There's a song lyric that claims this paradox. It says, bids me come and die and find that I may truly live. It's a paradox. It's this contradiction that's absurd, and yet it expresses truth. Come and die and find that I may truly live. Jesus calls us to this. He calls us to come and die, and when we respond, we truly live. Dying to self should not be scary. Taking up our cross is dying to ourself, and we end up living free. Jesus sets us free. His death freed us to deny ourselves to live for him. When he came to the disciples, when he came to this crowd and he called and he spoke and he said to come after him, then he said this one word in there that's crucial, that he must deny himself. She must deny herself. Must deny, must take up, and must follow. That's our third verb. To follow, it means to join or to accompany the one who precedes. Jesus leads, we follow. There's an old hymn, it says, where he leads, I will follow. And they're only words until they're put into action. And then they can become our declaration. Jesus says that we must deny ourselves, we must take up our cross, and we must follow him. These verbs go together, and yet they have an order. We can call ourselves followers, but if we're not denying ourselves, and if we're not willing to suffer for the cause of Christ, then we're not following as he instructs. The verbs of Jesus must be lived out his way. Jesus calls to you, and he comes alongside you, and he says, if you would come after me, you must deny yourself, you must take up your cross, and you must follow me. The verbs of Jesus for us today.